Hi, and welcome to a webinar with Adventures with Agile. And there's been a lot of increased talk about product management and product in general these days, both in Norway and wider in Europe as well. So we have invited our trainer for the product courses we offer, Timoté, and just having a chat. What is going on and what is really about this product? So Timoté, would you like to tell me a bit about you and also your product background?
Sure, hey everyone. So as you heard, I'm Timoté. I'm the CEO of Jalup consulting firm, specializing in product management. And to give you a bit of background, I've been involved in the tech industry for the past 12 to 13 years. I was taking leadership position in product, ranging from not making any revenue to 30 million roughly. And 2 years and a half ago already, I decided to take a bit of a different path in my career and launch a consulting firm specializing in product management. Over the course of this new journey, now leading this firm and personally still working on transforming large scale up and upper size companies and restructuring the product department, doing what we call product transformation. So really changing the way they approach product management in order to maximize the impact they have on the market and on their customers. Next to that, obviously, still giving some training, some talks left and right, with a special focus on general product management, but also on discovery.
Yeah, nice. So it's been mainly, so you've been doing your own company for 2.5 years.
Yes, that's correct. Jalup, we launched Jalup around in September 2021. Since then, we are now a group of 23 people. We're mostly active in Belgium, but also in Germany, in the UK, and in Norway. Norway through our partnership with AWA and the training part. And then on the other side, we have actually 4 lines of services. One we call Shape. So that's really what I mentioned, so restructuring product department. The second part is what we call Empower, where we do coaching, individual, group coaching, and trainings. And the third pillar is Build, where we do a discovery track for customers, or we're also doing UX audit. And the third one is what we call people leasing, so traditional consulting, where we staff people into organization for a longer period of time.
Okay. So I work, as you know, with organization development, working as an agile coach as well. So when we work with companies, they often want to organize around a product or a service or a value stream. And the question then arises often, what is really a product? And does it really matter to organize around the product? What is your perspective on that?
Well, that's a very good and large question, because indeed there is a big question. And so being organized around the product forced you to define what is actually a product.
Yeah.
And actually the trick is that the answer is very simple, but it's also quite vague. And what is a product is ultimately a value vessel, something that delivers value to your customers, thing that you can repetitively eventually use, but then you will end up with a physical product or digital ones. I think that is still quite a bit of a difference between the two, in more the entire product management life cycle, even though at some abstraction level you will see similarities. Because ultimately, if we want to give a kind of generic definition, we could say that it's something that meets a customer need or solve a customer problem in a way that is valuable to the customer and viable to the business. Obviously, there is still other risk or different elements that we would take into consideration into building that product, but ultimately, that's what we could define as a product.
Yeah. So you're saying it's value to the customer.
And actually, you mentioned also that it's value stream, so it's really focusing on the way you are delivering the value.
Yeah.
But not all value streams are products. A service, ultimately, it's also a value stream, because you are delivering value through something that you structure. There is obviously a bit of similarity, but it's slightly different because it's not quantifiable or less easy to, and it's not scalable in a way. So a service is something you will deliver, but you will depend on people and time and material in order to deliver it. Whereas a product would ultimately, ideally, remain the same for all your customers. And that's probably a bit of the definition, because that's why you start focusing on the product. Because if you have a product organization, so an organization that is actually selling or delivering their value or their service through a product, it makes sense to put the product at the core or the center of their activities and the focus, because that's the way you are delivering the value. And you also mentioned, I think that we agree that we'll discuss a bit on the different type of organization and what it means to build a product and what are the different ways. It's probably something we'll discuss a bit later, but it's good to keep in mind that there is as many organizations as there are ways of handling product management or doing product management. Even though obviously you have those of the leaders on the market that's trying to bring that level of abstraction, saying that at some level there are quite some similarities and there are good or best practices that could or should be applied, and at least would force a level of reflection and analysis and building an empirical process into everyone's organization. But I still believe that it's important to keep in mind that the one thing that is unique for any organization is their people. And that's the first thing that do matter. That you have an organization, it's a group of people that decided to work together toward one common goal, is solving a certain problem on the market, but they are serving specific customers that are also unique. So that's why you are seeing so many organizations that are organized differently and developing different solutions to solve a similar problem. Because customers are unique and the people building those products are also unique. So when we look at how we organize ourselves to create that product, will it to some extent build something that is unique as well?
So you made me think a lot there. But one interesting thing I heard you say there was also that you separated the way the service and product. So you don't say that a service is a product.
No. Well, nowadays you will quite a lot talking about the solution. So that's a bit of a new trend. I'm talking about the solution, saying the solution is encapsulation between the service and the product. I still believe that's a product ultimately, but because it's the way it's the way you are delivering the value, and it's rarely only a piece of software. A piece of software by itself does not do much, and that's why you have an organization around the software, and you have many people, and you have a CS team, and you have a sales team, and then you have an engineering team, a product team, a design team, and so on and so forth. And you need that combination of people in order to deliver something that is ultimately more an experience, and an experience or a solution. There are many differences, but when you think about the service ultimately is something that does not scale, and it will be different every system and every single way, every single time. Sorry. Whereas the product itself is something that you're building once, and then everyone will be using it to some extent, because you will obviously have some customization or some personalization if that's really required, and that will depend on your business model and the type of customers that you are serving, and there we would end up into different or different segmentation, when you would have a pure SaaS, a pure breed product-led product, where from product-led solution, where you would have a product that everyone will use and will pay online and won't have any interaction with any salesperson. And you will have enterprise sales, where you're still selling a product, but you're in a situation where most probably you will adapt to your customer rather than your customers adapting to you. Different skills and magnitude would create different flavors of product management. That's why you'll see that some people say that doing B2C product management is different from doing B2B product management, where people would say that working in a sales-led organization as a product manager is different than working in a product-led organization. But ultimately, it depends on through which lenses that you are looking at things. Because I think that will be always similar, which is focusing on the right problem, identifying the right problem, the one that was being solved now, and then prioritizing them, and still finding the solution to solve that problem. Now, the way you will look at the solution might be a bit different, because the access to the data or to the knowledge might be different, and you will have to find more creative way eventually to access to the right information to take an enlightened decision. But you're still doing the same thing, which is building a product.
So for my sake, we need to summarize that a bit because that was a lot. So back to the a product, so a service can be a product, as I understand what you said, or did you say it differently? So
I would say that a service can be part of it,
service can be part of a product.
namely under the umbrella of a solution. We could call it solution. But
Yeah.
let's think about very simple now. So you have let's say that you're working with the data solution.
Yeah.
Pure data software. Most probably you will have a piece of service that is embedded to that in order to integrate. You will have some customization because every data source might require some layers or some level of personalization, of customization. You may decide in your business model to externalize that part through partners that would be integration partners, but it means that your solution will still be your software with an integration partner creating a solution entirely. And then consequently, you can argue and start discussing about what is a product to you. Can you really isolate and just say that you are the piece of the product, or should you always look at the broader scheme of things where you integrate even, or where you consider your integration partner on which you depend to deliver the value? And if you go down to the line, I think good product management, keep in mind that it's an holistic process where you have an end-to-end responsibility, which force you to look beyond just the pure features or whatever technical aspect of the thing that you will develop and deliver and put on the market, but really think about how you solve your customer problem.
Yeah. So what would be a typical example of a service being a part of a product then? Do you have any examples from life that we can say this is the service part of the product? Just as you explained now.
I would say that would be very difficult because it depends on your business model and what you what you do. But think about ultimately, I take just in front of me, I have my car.
Yeah.
Car is a product, but ultimately I also have a service that's linked to that makes sure that my car got repaired on time. And I have ultimately within my license or my subscription for my car, which is a leasing, I have a part that I'm paying for the car itself, which is my product, and then I'm still paying for a part of it, which is the service linked to my car. And if I look still inside my car, I still have my car, but I'm still paying on top of that another subscription layer to get access to the whole feature capability of my car, which is the geo from an updated version of my GPS and my audio services or my media services that I still have to pay on top.
Yeah.
Is this a service or is this an extra layer of product? We will enter into into quite some debate here, but I think you get the point. You really have to look at. I think the simplest way of looking at that is to say, okay, how do you deliver value?
How to deliver value.
And then based on that, you will define what is actually a product for your organization.
Okay. So how to do it. So I'll let the what is a product go soon. But one thing I know that a lot of people are talking about also is that, well, I'm delivering a product in-house. I have internal customers.
That's true. I would say that there again, as soon as you have an audience, which is your customer, that has a problem, and then you are building a solution for that, you're ultimately building a product, whether it's an internal product or an external one, that doesn't change much. Your responsibility on the way you'll have to approach things. It may change a bit the interaction, but the work itself remains the same. Whether you are building an internal product for your for the public sector, for example, because you are serving the population, you are even serving internal teams, or whether you are working at large companies such as Solvay or any others, or you are building a pure product to handle internal processes that are specific for your organization. Still a product, you still have a problem, you still have an audience, and you still have the responsibility of figuring out, ensuring that you have the right problem, that you have understood it well, and then you're delivering the right solution to that. And then you still have the responsibility of measuring that, and still having the responsibility of delivering the best value possible.
Yeah.
The
So,
actual
so as I understand, you're delivering, so you're still doing product management, internal, delivering to internal customers, because you're delivering value in that product to them.
It's always value.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why do you build it? But it's still safe. I mean, we had in our office a couple of weeks ago a senior product manager at Spotify. She's working on a platform team. So ultimately, her product and her customers are just internal teams, and she's building the internal capabilities. But she's still a product manager, and she's still delivering a piece of software that is used by other internal teams, not directly used by external an external audience, but they are still an essential part of it. And maybe probably the right explanation of that is the Russian puppets, you know, the thing that the matryoshka, I think that's how they call the thing that you open and you take on it, and you're still with small
Puppet within a puppet. Yeah.
Voilà.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. It depends on what size of where you look. And the car is the example. What is a car? Is a car a product? Yes, it's a product. But when you look at within the car, you realize that it's a combination of probably 10,000 products. And then still you would have the product itself, and all the components are actually actual product developed by another, but you have also the piece of softwares that run the car. And each software is also a product. And even if you look at the tire, you have a complete industry just producing tires. So is the tire the product, or are the components of the tire a product? They are all products. It depends on by which lens you're looking at, and still it depends on what's the customer problem and how you solve it.
Okay. So we have a question also from the chat. So Marte is asking, would you say that the product is an output that delivers an outcome, or is a product more than an output?
If the product was just an output that delivers the outcome, then you would enter eventually taking the risk of going into a bit more of a feature factory, because you would just consider that the job is done when the product is delivered, whereas I would say that your job is done when the problem is solved. It's certainly a bit of semantic here, but my point is still that you should really focus on not what is exactly what your job ends when the problem is solved. And quite often I see product manager being wrong about it, because they really think that if they identify the right problem and they just ship a solution, their job is done, and then they just handing that over to another team and just blindly assume that the rest of the organization will do the work. Where I strongly disagree on that. You as a product manager has the responsibility of solving the problem. So it's your responsibility working with the other teams. I'm not saying that you have to do their job, but I'm saying that you have the responsibility of ensuring that your solution lands on the market and is still actually solving the problem.
Yeah.
And it won't work the first time. So we will have to really think iteratively and building that empirical process that helps you to really go into a systematic approach. That's why we're doing product management ultimately. Yeah? It's the same as why do we do product strategy? Because we want to mitigate the risk of being wrong. So we are building a process around what we do in order to be able to learn and measure, and being in a process where we can look at what we've done in the past, analyze it, learn from that, and improve so that tomorrow we'll do things better.
Yeah.
Product management is about that as well. It's going from a situation, being able in a systematic way to identify it, think about what would be the best solution. And then once we have identified the solution, which is still an hypothesis, ultimately, we are mitigating the risk by going with small iteration. I think that's a commonly agreed thing, going small and deliver thing, not a viable product, but a valuable one. And then from there, learning, iteratively delivering more value to serve better our customers, and then eventually broaden our level of addressable market in order to keep on expanding and satisfying more customers.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that the jobs end when the problem is done or is solved, maybe. So if I'm looking then at buying a product, for instance, I'm buying a car. I go and buy this car, even a customized car. Does that mean that the problem isn't done until I figure, so I'm satisfied with the car? Or what does the job end? Is it when I buy the car?
Yeah. So that's that's a very tricky one. That's why we try to make the distinction between the physical product and the software piece, because software it's easier because you still have the control. I mean pure SaaS software, because if you still work in a in the on-premise things, you screw this with the car. But I mean, with the software, at least that's the simplest thing. You still control, you iterate, and you can deliver, and you can incrementally improve your product to better serve your customer. That's the easy part. That's why everyone loves software, because you can still maximize the impact over the time. With the car, it's a bit tricky because that's why sales production cycle are so small, and it's a different thing, because indeed you are selling a piece of buying a car. And if you're not satisfied with your car, well, you're screwed. There is no way of really improving that unless you are paying more. And that's a bit true with physical products. And that's why the discovery and the research process are much longer, because the risk of being wrong is much higher. You can't just deliver a beta car, or at least your beta car must fit and must meet loads of requirements from a security standpoint. Whereas we've learned, I think everyone, that with Tesla, that quality standard can be quite low to land a car in the market. I mean, all owner of a first generation Tesla cars certainly still remember how crappy it is, or it was. But still meets quite some level of security and standards in terms of production standards in order to mitigate the risk of having unhappy customers. But still, they are learning from that. I think that Tesla are also very good at collecting the data from the different from the cars in order to improve the next generation. They're also doing a lot of software upgrade. I mean, even in all cars, you have software upgrades that are still slow, because probably the embedded software that you have in your car has been, I think, developed or produced 10 years ago, something like that. Or with Tesla, it's a bit different, because they are controlling a large majority of the software piece and the hardware piece under that make their life easier.
Yeah.
But I think you'll find online some recent talks from car producers, and they're explaining why it's so slow and why we have a so ugly interface, highly pixelized screens in your brand new car. It's mostly because it takes so much time for all the different third party being responsible or being engaged into the development of a version of a car, that at some point they have to draw a line and say, okay, this is the piece of hardware that we'll use, and these are the constraints. And then usually that thing has been defined a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Because it takes so much time. That's why you're still always lagging behind. That's why you see differences with the Tesla, where they better control. They have less third party or let's say providers that are providing the different piece of the of the car, and the, let's say, overlay of software application on top of it.
Yeah. So you mentioned that the physical car does a longer discovery phase, but you also mentioned the product discovery first. And I think that this is related to how do you really know that you're developing the right product? How would you start getting that feedback?
Well, I think a good introduction to that is that first we try to define what is a product, but then the question is, what is product management?
Yeah.
Product management is actually a science or combination of the art of combining science in order to develop and to deliver that piece of software or that hardware. And there, I would say that usually we have found with a distinction of two phases. What I like saying, that you have the problem framing phase and the solution design phase. In the sense that you first try to define what is the problem, and among all the problems that you identify all opportunities, what are the one that worth being solved? And once you have identified that and prioritize that eventually, then you can think about identifying what would be the best solution to solve that problem. And when we talk about discovery, there are two moments where you are doing discovery. Discovery is a very new word that has been introduced, I think around 10 years ago, something like that. Say differently is talking about research. Research, usually we have a combination of quantitative and qualitative research. There are two places where you're doing that in order to identify the right problems and then identifying the solutions. So if we take a step back, say, okay, it's always the same thing. What is the problem? And is this problem worth being solved? First thing you have to identify.
And
then,
just to ask you a bit there. So
yeah,
when you say, what is the problem? That could be a lot of different problems. And you're looking then, is this problem or these problems worth solving? And how would you know they are worth solving? What do you mean by worth solving?
yeah. So that's still my favorite thing is always to remind people that product management is a top-down process. We always think that it's bottom-up, where people will look and say, oh, what are the things that we can do today? And then thinking about, oh, I have that idea, or maybe there's that thing that we can do. No, that's not the way we do product management. We do product management top-down because we go from a company strategy. A company is a reason to exist. And usually that defines where you want to go. And once you know that, then you can translate that into a product strategy. The product strategy is ultimately how the product piece of this company can help reach those business goals. And that's still good to remind that it's not only about the product, because the product alone won't work, but there will be a sales strategy, there will be a marketing strategy. Obviously, at some point, this has to be aligned, because if you don't align at that level, nothing will work. But still, you end up with the product strategy. And then you would translate that into more concrete actions that you can eventually do. So that will be if you use a framework like OKR, that would be your objectives, but ultimately it's translating into more concrete outcomes, a strategy. Once you have that, then you will be able to identify what are the different areas where you can have an impact, and what are the things that you can eventually do, or the problem that you can eventually solve, that will help you reach those objectives, that will help you reach that strategy.
Yeah. So
And
a
that's
problem being
more
worth being solved is connected to your strategy and
exactly.
how and your reason for existing as a company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you will tell me, yeah, okay, but most of companies don't have a strategy, so how would you do that?
That's true. Yeah.
Uh, it's true, but even though there is not always a strategy, it could be a vision, could be badly defined, there is still a direction. I think
Yeah.
I've never seen a company that doesn't have at least a vague idea of where they are going. Yeah?
Yeah.
If you have that, usually, I would say that quite often you will end up in this situation where you have a loosely or not defined product strategy, or sometimes an unclear strategies. Already companies that are a bit bigger. I would say, let's take that situation where you are above 100 or 200 FTEs.
Yeah.
It means that in any way, probably you already have a piece of software. It means that probably you already have teams that are working. It means that you already have customers. What I always try to say is that there is no point in doing the launch up and trying to define that product strategy if your company strategy is not defined. And most probably, if you are a product leader or down lower in the hierarchy, there is no way you can touch that. But it does not prevent you to really try to bring more clarity in what you're doing, just by trying to have more stability on what you will do over following the upcoming months or the upcoming iteration. And then building up that product discovery process in order to collect more information, feed, challenge, and building that longer term horizon up until you reach that level of clarity. And by doing that, certainly your organization will help you, and then you will converge towards something more clear. But there again, we would end up into the reason why we are called as Dialogue to fix the things. I don't say that it's easy and just start from the bottom up and just trying to build it up. Usually you have to do that from both sides, but there is no reason being locked, and nothing prevents you to already do a better job at your level, even though there is no product strategy defined.
Yeah,
see
and
that,
it's a comment from sorry, might not be good at pronouncing it. So
Loic.
Loic, okay. And there's also a layer of prioritization in order to tackle what will be the most impactful for the customer company and build your roadmap from there.
Yeah, that's what I consider by being worth being solved, is the one that will deliver the maximum impact. How you define the impact will differ from an organization to another. I will still remember a couple of months ago, I got challenged by someone in a training because I talked about the business value, and she thought that I was only talking about the money. It's true that if you are working in the capitalistic let's say company, and that where you have some financial outcomes, probably is the first thing they will look at. But it's not the only thing. So you will still again have to look at your company culture, company values, and this product and the company strategy that will help you to define what it means to deliver value.
Yeah, and if it's worth delivering value on that one. So
Exactly.
building that, solving that problem.
Exactly, because not all problems should be solved. It's impossible.
Yeah.
That's a good thing with software. There is always things to solve and always things to do. It's always sometimes sometimes very frustrating and overwhelming for people because they're like, yeah, but there's so many things we don't have time. Yeah, sure, but you pay to prioritization, huh?
And I interrupted you because that was one part, and the other part was, I think, more connected to the solution discovery or
But,
yeah.
so once you have a problem and you know that this problem was being solved, you still don't have the right solution.
Yeah.
And quite often I see some people being good at defining what are the things that were being solved and then jumping on a conclusion and then still completely wrong. Because you're not the customer, and even though you use it, you're not paying for it, and you're not generating the revenue of your company. So your opinion as a product manager doesn't matter, and actually no opinion in your organization matter. What matter is what the market will say. And therefore you'll have to go talk to those customers and do that part of thinking iteratively about identifying what would be the best solution, slicing it down, ensuring that you're mitigating the risk, because it's always important to keep in mind that up until something lands on the market, you don't know.
Yeah.
You may mitigate the risk of being wrong by doing additional level of research, but it's still a level of uncertainty that you're mitigating. And that's the way you will have to do trade-off, because you can't stay and doing too much research.
Yeah.
So you will have to assess your risk appetite, usually defined by your organization. But there is still one, and there is still a risk. And up until you land something on the market, you won't know.
Okay.
It's the fact that everyone is really pushing to ensure that you are constantly and iteratively delivering value at small iteration, not waiting too long to collect that market feedback.
So in that incremental way of delivering, and you're also reducing risk, and you're checking and you're learning as you go and make money, so you are able to sustain the development of the discovery process.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's you said a two-step. For me, it almost sounded like a three-step thing. So finding the problem, is it worth it? Trying to find a solution by checking with the market, but also if you mentioned this another thing, I just forgot. So I think you mentioned something around are you able to deliver maybe the solution?
Yeah, there, if Martin Gagan talks about the four risks, so the value, the feasibility, the viability, and I'm losing my words now. But anyway, there are different risks that you will have to assess, because not all the things that you can, it's not because you could do it that you still it's financially viable, or and then usability, obviously. That's one. So depending on where you are in the flow, you will not necessarily focus on the same risk, I would say. But pragmatically speaking, I think that's the viability one is the most obvious one. It's the one that you usually immediately define whether it's actually worth being solved, and if you will have actually you will generate enough revenue or have enough cash income in order to solve that problem. The usability one is the one in the solution design that is sometimes a bit trickier to identify. But still is probably the one that is the more documented one.
Yeah. So we've talked a bit about product management, what a product is, but what does a product coach do? What is typically for a product coach?
That's a 1 million question. A product coach, I would say that there is a lot of flavor of product coaches.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a couple of examples. And probably just explain you what I'm doing right now with a couple of companies such as Integrity or Actito and other. I'm considered as a product coach, but what I'm doing there is really looking and helping them to restructure and reorganize the way they work as an organization. So it's really going down from working in two axes at the same time. So trying to help them define what is product management for them.
Yeah.
Defining and translating that product for that company strategy into a product strategy, helping them in that process. And then looking at the organization and say, are they organized in the right way in order to reach their business goals and their product strategy? Then once we have identified the different weaknesses and problems that we agree on that, then we are defining the way of solving that, which means upskilling people, restructuring the way they are working and they are operating, splitting the teams, hiring people, or eventually moving people at another place of the organization. Then at the same level, we are also working from a bottom-up perspective, where we are also coaching and helping upskilling people and really helping them on doing product management on a daily basis. So that's the pure product transformation. And you see there that usually we are a team. One is working top down and the other one is working bottom up. Which means that you'll have more operation product coaches that will eventually just act as a partner with product manager, working side by side with them or refocusing on them and helping them on the daily basis to improve their practice. And then you have also sometimes what we call product discovery coaches, where we are focusing only on one specific part of the process, which is the discovery part. The reason that is probably one of the next questions that you will ask on the European market and Europe. Historically, we are quite good in delivery. What we formally know is because Scrum is widely spread with the product owner, refocusing on the backlog and user stories, etc. Usually, you have quite often you have organizations that have a well-oiled delivery machine. But I always like to sorry for my English, so shit in, shit out process. So you can have the best well-oiled delivery machine. If you feed it the wrong thing, you will have the wrong things going out. And that's where usually we then eventually enter through the product discovery and coaching them and helping them toward how to do that research process. However, my attention point on that is that it only works if there is a clear work organization and if there is an organization that is really ready to work that way. And quite often, we have to combine that with reviewing and restructuring a bit the way product management is done and defining the different processes and the different peoples and different roles to enable product managers to actually do discovery.
Okay.
And the reason, just to refer to what we were saying, where we were saying that there are two places where you do discovery. One is in the problem framing and identifying problem where it's being solved, and the one identifying what's the right solution. The danger is that if you have a well-oiled delivery machine, naturally people will first want to focus on doing discovery in the solution design part. But the issue is that it still does not tell you that you are solving the right problems.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you're focusing your effort there, you have to be careful as a product leader, because if you are not sure that you are focusing on the right problem, you may kill yourself or shoot yourself in the foot because the organization will trust you, will give you a bit of budget. You'll start doing discovery, and then you'll realize that you're not doing the right things. Or eventually you start doing a bit of discovery, but still delivering the wrong things. And therefore, you will have increased your cost while
Yeah.
still not delivering the right things.
So,
And
so
what
you might brilliantly be delivering a solution to the completely wrong problem. So it's not
exactly
worth
best
actually
solution to the wrong
solving. And
problem.
sorry,
Voilà, best solution, wrong problem,
best solution, wrong problem. Yeah.
but same
And that
outcome.
might, yeah, and that might actually sink you because it's not worth actually solving from your strategy point of view.
Exactly.
It sounds like, yeah,
Voilà. And
interesting.
that's really where it's trickier because you have to go a bit higher in the value chain.
Mm,
Uh, that's usually where we do transformation coaching. That's probably the best way of explaining.
yeah,
If you know that you have already a strategy and you're sure that your organization are doing the right things, but you still see that your teams are not skilled enough in terms of discovery, and you realize that they are still a bit in the feature factory, they are not talking to their customers, and they don't know how to do that, then you need a product discovery coach.
yeah.
If
Okay.
you're in a situation where you're unsure that you are actually addressing the right problems and you need help there, that's probably where you need a more product transformation coach.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So what are the trends you're seeing now within the product space in Europe now in 2024? What is happening?
Um, the bad things or the good things first?
Let's start with the bad things.
Bad thing is economical downturn, that's for sure. Um, Everyone is stressed. I mean, yeah, it's true. Everyone is struggling.
Mm,
Everyone had good hopes and probably where everyone was overshooting or over targeting and promised the moon to their stakeholders, and now they realize that won't be able to deliver.
yeah,
Unfortunately, sometimes they side with the devil, aka VC firms and private equities, or you name it, uh, and consequently are in a bit of a tricky situation. Hence the fact that there is quite a lot of layoff. Um, Now I don't see that much of a bad thing if you think, obviously from a human perspective, let's be clear, and for the people impacted by that, it's a disaster. Uh, but from a longer term perspective, it's not necessarily a bad thing because things were going a bit crazy in 2021 and other where the the mindset I still remember in 2021 where people were saying we have a problem internally. The answer was always let's hire more people.
yeah,
And now the question is say, oh shit, we can't hire more people. Let's make sure that we upskill them. And that's the good thing. I
yeah,
think we see a huge surge in the coaching part because loads of companies realize that they can't hire more people and they will have to deal with the people they have. It would be good to invest in them. So that's a good thing.
So it's almost like sounds like you're saying that this might be a good thing in a kind of anti-fragility way. So we're getting more resilient in that area because we are stop just throwing money at the problem and actually start looking at how can we solve this in better and better ways.
Yeah, definitely.
Sobering up.
It's always the question of quantity versus quality.
Yeah,
We increase the quantity, realize the quality wasn't there, we're not delivering on the value or reducing in order to increase the quality. And I think
yeah,
that's the best way of doing it. Obviously, there is also a lot of very good companies that didn't fall into that trap. It's probably the one that are in the best situation now,
yeah,
or still companies that have done that well anyway. But put that aside, I would also say that the overall maturity of product management is really exponentially increasing over probably the past 5 years. Uh, and that's also thanks to the all massive investment into product management, because more product management means more people interacting, more
yeah,
people reflecting on that on that way of working and trying to define it. You see also much more thought leader, European thought leader, that bring a different perspective on the reality because US is nice, but we have always to be careful on what are the voices from the US that are arriving here, and the difference in terms of mindset, in terms of culture, in terms of, I would say, sometimes making things much more beautiful than they are.
Yeah.
And you see different voices now coming up. Let's say, hey, let's be pragmatical. No, not everything is perfect. There is no one way of things. Yes, they are guiding principle and we should embrace them. There are some fundamental principles that we should keep, but we should also be should also remember that there are people behind, and it's always people over processes over tools. And if you bring the wrong process or the wrong practice to the people, you'll still get the wrong outcome.
Yeah.
That's
And that
important.
connects back to the unique people in both in your company and in your customer base. So it sounds like you're saying that on the bad side, well, we're struggling the harder times, but on the good side, we're getting more voices, maybe more quality into the product scene.
Exactly. Really, I
That's
clearly see a really strong product community in Europe.
great.
And a really strong, I mean, daily interaction with people in the UK. I mean, in Norway, there's a reason why we have that conversation, but also in Germany, where you have a big product management hub. In the UK as well, you have quite a community, and people are interacting, exchanging, sharing best practices, learning from each other at a pace that I've never seen before.
Nice. Yeah. So we have another question in the chat as well, I think. So what I could see is that through the big organization transformations, often product owners end up disconnected from product management practices because it has been a neglected area in that transformation. And then it says product operations. So
I would say that the two things are probably disconnected. The first one is definitely true. You've seen, for now, you still have large companies that talk about digital transformation, and then eventually product management will be embedded into that, which is causing problem because they're still not addressing things the right way. They're still looking at thinking about transforming eventually the organization, while forgetting about that product piece of it. That's for sure. And probably they will have to repeat their transformation. But I also see quite some organizations that are really now leading transformation through the product. And I think that the good example, I mean, the emerging point of the iceberg is probably Marty Kagan's last book, which is Transformed, which is really focusing on transforming companies that are product-centric. And he actually published a LinkedIn post yesterday, I think, to remind that even though his two first books were addressed to product managers or product leaders, his third book is really addressed to organization building product. And that's a very different move. And indeed, when we are doing a product transformation, even though we start through the lens of the product engineering department, we're changing a complete organization, because we are going from a way where everyone is shooting left and right, and eventually we are just output based, to an approach where the entire organization is outcome based, where product and the customer comes back to the center of the conversation. And the question is, how do we deliver together value to our customers? And yes, through the lens of the product, but still together.
Yeah.
And that's changed completely the way we approach things.
Interesting. I'll look into that, but you're really speaking to something I also really love, and that is, how can we support organizations to really look at what are we going to do together, and how are we impacting each other when we are working towards that. So it seems like the product space is also talking about and moving towards looking at how can we deliver those outcomes to customers. And we need to look at it in a holistic way from the organization's point of view, not only from a product manager perspective. Someone knows how to do it and tells other people, but it's more like, how can we bring the whole organization towards those outcomes?
Yeah, what I like to give us a representation, I think that the product manager is the spider, on that spider web, and all
Okay.
the connecting points are the different, let's say, stakeholders and entity. So the product manager per se is only just there to help to keep people really connected and ensuring that we are still heading to the right direction,
Yeah.
keeping things calm and not shaking too much. Where they don't have that much influence or leading power, decision power, but they all can only lead by influence. It's a
Mm.
tricky position to be, but when it works, it can be very, very impactful.
Yeah, I really, really believe in that narrative, and I think that it's a good way of leading people really as well,
Yep,
so that we
definitely.
can go together faster. Yeah. So, as you mentioned, you're holding a couple of courses for us. One is product discovery and one is product management. Could you just give us just what is the difference in the course? What can we expect differently, or what is
Yeah.
expected from these?
So in May, we'll have a product discovery training. So that's a 2 days training where we only focus on discovery. So it means that we'll look at the different techniques that are used across both the problem framing phase and the solution design phase, but really taking the lens of trying to bring a more scientific approach. So we'll talk about qualitative research and quantitative research, the different techniques that we can use, and how to build an empirical process there.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit very technical, but don't worry, there's plenty of exercise and interactive actions. But still, down there, it's 2 days really intensive focus on how to do product discovery and then ultimately product research.
Yeah.
So that's best suited for people that are already product managers. They want to ramp up their game and say, okay, I know that I have to do discovery or I'm doing things, I'm talking to customers, but I don't know exactly if I'm doing things right, and I want to ensure that I improve the way I'm doing that.
Yeah.
You should know already when you come to think what is product discovery. But then you don't need more than that, and you'll get all the foundations, and it's really addressed, yeah, like I said, people that are already in product management
Yeah.
and want to improve that particular part of their activity. The
Upping
product
that game. Yeah.
management, the product management training that will happen in June is slightly different because there we're looking at the entire value of a product management life cycle in 2 days. So
Mm.
obviously it's a bit more intense. We're going less deep into the practice, but trying to have a good overview. I think that's really valuable for uh, product managers that also have a bit of background in product management, that's for sure. Usually you will have people between 3 and 7 years experience in product management. And there is two reasons for that. It's one, because sometimes you as a product manager, I mean, no one is born product manager. Right? And quite often we see that people have, even though they have career of 12 or 10, 12, 20 years, they're only doing product management for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And they've just learned the way of doing product management in one or two companies, sometimes with a very segmented view on what is product management. And this course is great because it goes through the entire life cycle. So it helps to help people to reflect on what they're currently doing, what are the things that they should be doing they're not doing, and what are the things that others are doing and how to interact. Because like I say, there is many ways of doing product management as organization to do it. And we'll come with one generic way that's probably the most standard one. But sometimes you will identify that the product management role is spread on 3 people, but you not be really aware of that. And then probably we'll discuss on how to interact with them in order to ensure that you still deliver the value. And we'll still talk obviously a bit of about discovery, but we'll go much less deeper than in the 2 days free,
Yeah.
let's say, deep training on that.
Thank you. So I see Siri has also shared the links for those who are interested in that. I found it really interesting to join your product manager course earlier this year, and looking forward, hopefully, to be able to also come to your discovery course later. So
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that and chatting more with you on that.
Yeah, and maybe one thing, because I forgot to say, there's two reasons. One is because you're product manager, you want to improve, but we've also seen quite often some teams coming. So where we have a head of product coming with a couple of product manager where they say, oh, we want to align on one way of doing product management and having a standard definition and a coding, and they say, okay, let's stick to one way of doing product management and try to then enable our organization.
Yeah.
That's also a good reason, because then it sets the ground for everyone. Then we say, then you go out with your team and say, okay, we have now a shared representation of one way of doing product management, or at least, and let's be clear, I won't tell you how to do it, but more giving you the different tips and tricks and tools and the different steps. But at least you have one reference point that can help you then afterward enable conversation, engage conversation with your organization to see what are the things that you considered worth being improved.
Yeah. So it's again talking also a bit into this, how can we bring the whole organization with us by having more of a common understanding of what is it? So if you have a team going on that, or other parts of the organization that could also be supporting towards that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think we're straight on the hour. The top or the half of the bottom of the hour, I think it's called in English. So half past is also used in Norway. Great talking with you, Timoté. Lovely as always. Really interesting learning more about what is a product, what is product manager and discovery, and also a bit about what coaching doing. So,
yeah, thank you as well. It was a real pleasure to have that conversation. Definitely an interesting one. Thanks for to Loic and the others who left, Victoria and other who left a message and engaged with us. Definitely was nice to have those full interaction and picking up and go deeper. Everyone, hope to see you in May or in June, or in June. And really don't hesitate to get in touch with us if you would like to have other dates eventually.
Yeah. Thank you again. We are going to be back in, I think, May with another webinar, and try to do this regular. So if you like this, please do join us for other webinars as well later. Okay. So thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see you later.
Thank you everyone. Bye.
Bye.